This Saturday and Sunday is the biggest handicapping contest weekend of the year at Monmouth Park. Saturday is the $2,000 Pick Your Prize Handicapping Challenge. All players have to pre-register for this event. There is no walk-up this year, so you're going to want to get with Brian Skirka as quickly as possible and let him know that you're planning to play. monmouthpark.com. You can find it through their website, the information that you need. I also want to let folks know that Sunday there is a $500 NHC qualifier. This contest is on site only with walk-up registration. Monmouth, Belmont, and Gulfstream are going to be the tracks. There's going to be 4 NHC seats, win, place, or show only. Go to Monmouth Park's website to check out all the information on that one. And if you have any questions, reach out to Brian Skirka at Monmouth Park. His email, bskirka, BSKIRKA, at monmouthpark.com. Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players Podcast. This is our late week show. We are recording on Thursday, June 10th, looking ahead to the races of June 12th. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatal, back with you in the Brooklyn Bunker once again. My little light box is back. I'm very excited to say. Perrin made that sign for me, so props to her. We'll give her the first thank you. We usually save the thank yous to the end, but nice on you, Perrin, and I like the green color. It's got a whole rainbow that it can be. Joining me today is a man who made a very recent and very popular appearance on the show. He was part of our Pro Players Roundtable, which several players tweeted and emailed and texted and every other method of communication. There was even a smoke signal mixed in there about how thankful they were for the thoughts of Paul Matisse and this gentleman ahead of the Belmont Stakes. Some very, very astute insights that led players to make money. I'm talking, of course, about professional horse player Sean Boarman. Sean, what's up, my man?
Not much, man. How are you?
Things are good. Things are good. Getting ready to head down to Monmouth tomorrow, the big Pick Your Prize contest. I'm going to meet up with our business manager, Drew Coatney. We're going to check out some of the goings-on around Monmouth, dig the sunset racing on Friday, and basically just looking forward to a good weekend. You ever been to Monmouth?
Yeah, we went when I was up there at Saratoga with you that year.
Oh, right.
When the heat canceled racing, we took that bus down to Monmouth.
That was
Haskell Day.
I really wish there had been a video, a film made of it. I can guarantee you it would have had more action than the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour.
It was a fun day. It was a fun day. It was a long day, but it was fun.
It's interesting because I think that inspired, in a way, these Friday nights at Monmouth that they're doing this year. I think having the late card and sort of the energy of the twilight racing, I think it's really cool. I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to be down there. Going to do a special show, I think, on Monmouth's Saturday races with Eric Solomon that'll drop Saturday morning. But really, I'm just looking forward to it. I think it's going to be kind of an old home week thing with horse players coming in from all over the country to play in Pick Your Prize, which if folks are interested, you can still get involved. $2,000 live bankroll tournament, one of the best ways to get qualified for the NHC, plus cash and BCBC in there as well. Go to the Monmouth Park website or reach out to our buddy Brian Skirka, and he'll get you sorted out in that realm. What's your story? You been playing any contests lately, or have you been focusing on your own gambling?
Yeah, just my own gambling. I haven't played a contest, I guess, since the Travers contest last year. So
it's been a minute.
It's been a while, yeah.
And something you might have back on your radar for a meet like Saratoga or Del Mar?
Yeah, definitely. I think honestly, I might try the Monmouth one Saturday.
Oh, do it!
Sort of out of the blue. I've never played in that one, so I may mess around there. But I'm going to try to play in some of the Saratoga ones for sure.
If you win, I can accept the trophy for you. How about that?
Yeah, perfect.
Check it out, monmouthpark.com, or if you need Brian's info, happy to send that to you. He might just be bskirk at monmouthpark.com, but double check that before you go sending emails and getting a potential bounce back. You're here to talk about the Belmont pick six on Saturday. I know you're a big believer in the $1 minimum on these pick sixes. We'll get back to that in a minute. But I wanted to start off by looking back at last weekend's Belmont Stakes. I know that's something that comes very naturally to you as a player, to go back and look at the results after they happen. I know you had a bunch of thoughts coming out of the day. We can touch on one or two of those if you want. But the main thing I wanted to ask you about is, as a pace-oriented player, where you stood on this question of which horse was best in the Belmont Stakes. And I'll just ask it to you plain. Who was best in the Belmont Stakes, Sean?
It's a tough question. I would lean towards Hot Rod Charlie being best, just a little bit the best. To me, he did all the dirty work and was, on a part of the track I didn't think was the best part to be on. So I would lean towards it, but it's very, very close. So both those horses ran great.
It was an exciting finish. I mean, I've mentioned it several times on the airwaves, but there were some rags to riches Curlin vibes there for me. I was digging it. I was digging it thoroughly, and I'm curious to see where they go next and when they're gonna hook up again next. How was the betting for you on the day? Did you end up? I assume you made some money based on the opinions you gave on this show.
Yeah. I had a nice day. I didn't do well in the Belmont itself, but leading into it was good. So
yeah, it was interesting talking back and forth with JK about the just a game in particular. How much more are you, after the fact, comfortable sharing with folks about how you basically landed on those €2 as the horse to beat? It wasn't as reductive as they're the €2. I'm going to box them in the exacta. There was a lot more to it than that, I know.
Well, I didn't love the Americans. So anytime, in any race, like in a maiden race, when there's some that have run and some haven't, and the ones that have run are just proven to be no good, you could sort of default to firsters sometimes. So Same idea. I wasn't thrilled with any of the Americans. So then that just leads me to look at the Euros, and it was, pretty similar to the Breeders' Cup with Glass Slippers. There was some data points that said, I'm blanking on her name now, the 8-horse. What was her name?
Althequa.
Yeah. There was some data points that said she was just better than the Americans. And there were some, data points that said the 9, the other European, would be best speed in there. So I just played that exacta box and pressed it 8-9 the way it came, and got lucky.
That's what you got to do in this game. The old idea of it's two competing ideas, right? There's I'd rather be lucky than good, and then there's also the harder I work, the luckier I get. The Branch Rickey line. Mm-hmm. I suspect it might be the latter more than the former for you, but I'll throw that out there. So, what did you think about the main track in the end? I heard a lot of chatter about dead rail, but there were certainly horses that ran okay on the rail. In the end, what did you call it for your own proprietary?
I think the rail was definitely bad, and I think the ones that quote ran on the rail really weren't on the rail. I think you could look at the Met Mile and say the winner came up the inside, but that horse really didn't spend a whole lot of time actually on the rail. It's one of those tracks where I think the actual one path was bad. You didn't want to be there, but 2.5, 3 path were perfectly fine. So those are funny tracks to deal with, and you've got to really watch the head-ons closely to see what actual path those horses are in, because from the pan, they can look like they're on the rail when they're 3 lengths off the rail.
The other thing I've often wondered in doing pace analysis like that is it just makes sense to me that the rail doesn't necessarily have to be the same all the way around. So maybe where Hot Rod Charlie got to the rail wasn't one of the points that was a problem. Like, is that a legit way of thinking about the world, or should his performance be upgraded massively?
I think it should be upgraded, but it really depends on the pace of the race. And I think certainly there's spots where, if the rail is bad and deeper, it could be deeper on the first turn or the backside than it is on the second turn. I mean, that's certainly, if you believe one part of the track can be deeper, then you can believe that parts of that part of the track could be deeper as well. So, but to me, I think the effects of bias are always more pronounced during the fastest part of the race and when the horses are in the most duress. And that can be the fastest fractions, and it can also go into each individual horse. You know, if a horse was asked to do something early in a race that it typically isn't, even if that's not the fastest part of the race, it would be the fastest part for that horse, then that should exaggerate effects of bias for that particular horse too. So it's there's multiple layers to bias and pace and how you deal with it. But, you know, just in general, I think Hot Rod Charlie should be moved up a little bit. Yes.
Let's move on to this pick six on Saturday. I know you're a big fan of the dollar minimums, like I said before. Have you had any luck with this NYRA pick six since it moved to the dollar minimum? And why do you like the dollar minimum in general?
Well, I think the dollar minimum just sort of shakes out the computer teams a little bit and allows them to be not quite as efficient as certainly as 20-cent minimums and even 50-cent minimums. It's harder to cover things with the dollar, and it allows you as a non-computer player to express opinions stronger to me. You know, you can get in there and it eliminates the use more horses and just hope for good luck and cover things. And I think you have to have more handicapping opinions really at the higher minimums to play.
That makes perfect sense. And for a player such as you or many of our listeners, that's going to play more into their hands. Have you had any success so far with it? We've had a lot of tricky days, a lot of carryovers. That's pretty much indicative of how tricky it's been.
You know, honestly, I haven't played it that much, not as much as I would have liked. I've been behind on my info and had struggled catching up with it, so I haven't played it as much. I've not hit it yet, but hopefully we can change that soon.
Well, let's talk about this one. Race number 5. It begins on Saturday. 3:02 is the scheduled post time for this 1 mile dirt race for 3 and up, New York bred, optional claiming non-winners of 2 allowance types. How did you want to get this thing kicked off?
You know, to me, this is just sort of a survive and advance race. I guess my top line horses would be too early for Linda Rice. I assume Linda's still allowed to enter horses. I don't know exactly what's going on with her.
I'm actually not sure. I thought the other shoe might have fallen on.
Yeah, I did too, but I don't know. If that horse is in, I like it. And then I thought the Danesbury horse on the outside. I'm working without numbers in my past.
That's okay. I've got them here. So you tell me names and I'll recap with numbers.
Okay. Daneberry would be the other one I'm interested in for one of my top choices. Just thinking it's, you know, got speed and it's drawn outside and looks to be improving a little bit to me. And then 2 I would use as backups would be Casmania and Durkin's Call.
That's the 4 and the 6 as backups for Sean, with the 3 and the 8 on the top line. I agree. I thought Daneberry was interesting, especially if anywhere near this 12-1 of the morning line. Competitive numbers and a possible pace advantage, I thought. Natalia Lynch doesn't have much in the way of a body of work in terms of first off the claim, but it looked to me like the booking of Saez seemed eye-catching and interesting in this spot. Any other thoughts on that one, Sean, or should we move it right along?
No, that's all I got.
Let's talk about Belmont Park, race number 6. We're looking at 3:34 p.m. Eastern on the inner turf, going a mile and a 16th. 3 and up, filly and mare, maiden special weights. A couple that stood out to me in this spot, starting with number 5, Infinite Potential. I felt like this was a promising debut. I actually sometimes like a second-time starter for a trainer like Chad Brown that wasn't bet first out, in the sense that nothing was expected of them that day. So I'm willing to build in a little bit more potential improvement when they do a little bit of running. And I think Infinite Potential did a little bit of running, caught against the flow, finishing up well in terms of her running line. When we get to you, Sean, I'll let you tell me if for your LP numbers, if she finished up okay. But I'll mention one more first, and that's number 6, Angelou, another I felt was a flow move up coming out of the last race. This one in the other direction in the final start at 2, just setting an unsustainably fast pace. back after the long layoff with Lasix and Pletcher. Just a very logical contender. I didn't want to beat me and wanted to at least consider, depending on how the prices shake out in here. What did you think of Belmont Sixth?
I really liked the Chad Brown horse, Infinite Potential. I thought she ran really well last time against another Chad horse that was heavily bet and very impressive. But this one, finished nice. Didn't have anything go right. I thought got checked, or not checked, but sort of shuffled early and sort of out of position. And very quickly after the wire was up to the neck and even past that other real impressive winner. So she just screams improvement second out to me, and I'm just going to cold single her. I do like some things about your other horse, Angelou, but I'm going to guess that horse gets bet, and I just want the Chad Brown in here.
That makes sense. In Italian was the runner, I think, that Infinite Potential ran against the first day. And that probably is part of the reason for that tepidity on the board, was all the barn and market enthusiasm resulted because of how well fancied that impressive winner was. But yeah, we'll stand together there. Fixed odds people, take a look. This might be one where you want to grab when they hang a number early, if you can see anything, 5-2, 3-1. If Sean and I are right, probably going to be 6-4 or 3-2 or even shorter than that in this race. So the 5 for Sean, the 5 and a little bit of 6 for me in Belmont's 6th. We'll move on to Belmont's 7th, 4:06 Eastern. On the dirt, going 7, 3 and up fillies and mares in this first level allowance race. Sean, how did you see it?
There's 4 of them I want to use to some degree. Entreat, I assume, is the one horse.
Yes.
Love and Love, Subsidiary for Noda, and the outside horse Whispering Pines. I want all 4 of those. In terms of A's and B's, I'm not really sure. I don't really structure my tickets that way, but I would use all of them not equally. I would press those 4 to some extent.
People are going to accuse me of a host fail if I don't follow up on that, Sean, rather than the traditional A-B methodology that we've spoken about so many times on the show, or that I first heard espoused by the likes of Barry Meadow and Stephen Chris. How would you describe your approach to constructing the multi-race tickets?
I use different approaches just depending on the way the sequence lays out. This sequence, I think I have 2 real solid singles. The next one we'll get to later, but when I have that, I'll just use every other thing that I like in the other legs, and then press the ones I want more and use the ones I want less. Sometimes I do use A's and B's. Sometimes I don't have strong opinions, but I've got races narrowed down, and I'll do the traditional A's and B's things and press the all A tickets and press the 1B tickets a little less, and so on and so forth. I'm not even opposed to just doing a caveman ticket if you're throwing out a couple favorites that are going to be heavily bet. So to me, it's all depends on what the sequence is, what your opinions are. We talked about it a little bit in the Pro Players show before Belmont Day. Just having a one philosophy for everything, to me, is a losing idea. You've got to be flexible and be willing to change your thoughts based on your opinions.
I concur completely. Let me clarify one other thing for listeners. I think part of the reason I'm going to guess that works so well for you is very often you're playing in other pools as well. So you can even more subtly register your opinion in different races by playing in different pools. And this is just one club in your entire bag that you're taking out there to the course.
Right. No, that's right. And something Paul and I have talked about, and this was not my idea. This was, I think, an idea of a friend of his that he mentioned to me. They were talking specifically about pick 5s, but he mentioned the idea of finding singles, especially singles that are, if they're decent price singles, a horse you love that's going to be 5-1, just single the horse. And then, hell, if you need to come back and bet it to place, if you catch a bad beat in the picks, but you make a place bet and maybe recoup that pick, the money you spent on the pick sequence that way. Just little ideas like that can create value, not necessarily value in that you're getting 10 times your money, but the value of just getting some money back when you're wrong and living to fight that next fight and play the next sequence and stuff like that. It's very, very important.
Capital preservation is an idea that, if you're somebody who has maybe other stuff going on and you're just, I get it. Like there are some people who are in a different position and they're playing horse racing as part of, their portfolio of investments that may include other gambling games, other disciplines, this and that. And maybe with the horse racing play can be focused entirely on EV and nothing else, good for them. That's one way to look at it. But when what you're doing is like what you and Paul are doing and you're playing horses all the time, the idea of bankroll preservation can be the difference between going insane and not, I would imagine, and also just having the amount of operating capital to crush the right opportunity for you as a player.
Oh, absolutely, and it can mean the difference of going out of business as well. I mean, if you can't preserve your capital, and that's all you've got a set amount of working capital. That's the most important thing, man.
To be game, set, match in a hurry. That place idea specifically is interesting and one that I'd love to bring back up. I don't know. I don't think we have a scheduled show to get you and Paul back on, but we'll have to do it at some point. Any chance you'll be just another fairly random question that I could just as easily ask you off air, but any chance you'll be in Saratoga? Maybe we can do something in person up there?
Oddly enough, about an hour ago, I was looking at Verbo or VRBO or whatever the hell it is for places up there. So there's a pretty good chance I'll be up there at some point. Yeah.
The Degenerate Flophouse would be proud to have you and the family should you decide to go. We'll make it look real nice, so we won't get you. We'll get you in hot water.
The Graham residence is a new option that's available. I think I'll make it up some.
I like it. All right, my thoughts on this seventh race. I like the first two that you mentioned. Love and Love, I listed first. Looks to have a numerical advantage, proven effective with the stalk and pounce trip that I think she's going to get in here. And then the one in Treat, I thought looked pretty decent on the debut last fall. Obviously, something has gone amiss for it only be coming out now, but I felt like the recent work suggests she's back on track. And as you were talking about Subsidiary, the 6, mentioning that runner, when the Nota Barn gets hot, it makes a lot of sense to throw them in. So I'll underline that as well. And then another Natalia Lynch runner. We talked about her a little bit earlier. I think if that, hopefully this isn't too, short sample or whatever. But I feel like if the other Natalia Lynch runs well, especially, I'll be inclined to upgrade this one at 10-1, also with Saez in the irons. Let's move on, though, Sean, to race number 8. 4:40 Eastern on the dirt, going 6, 4 and up fillies and mares in the New York bred stakes. The Dancing Renee. I felt like number 5, Sadie Lady, looked like might be clear on the Timeform US pace figures. Curious what your pace figures say. Felt like she had the best form overall. I wasn't going to overthink it. And the 3 Good Credence I thought could be interesting just from a condition handicapping perspective as one who might improve second time off the layoff. First start back at 4 in 12 days, or second time start. You know what I'm saying. This one, Good Credence, has done well closing in the past. I liked it 5-3. What do you think?
Okay, I have a question first.
Hit me.
Do you know or do you remember the trip on Espresso Shot last time? There was a horse that went down in that race.
Yes.
I don't have a trip note, but you can't watch the damn replay because there was a breakdown. Oh. And I just wonder if she really stopped as bad as it looks like on paper, or if she stopped worse because of the breakdown. And, I think she was probably stopping, but did she really beat a legitimate 13, or, I just don't know. And you would think that Naira and Roberts Communications and all the people that have the hold on all this info would expect us to come back and bet some more races and let a grown man watch a replay, but that's not the case.
That's amazing. I don't remember
the
specifics of it offhand, but I mean, it looks like it could easily be something related to that. Even that notwithstanding, I mean, I think you could probably conjure excuses. I think hadn't she run below par in the mud before?
Yeah, it's tricky. Her race 3 back in the mud's no good, but she does have a mud win. But all muddy tracks are different, so you never know. I like her. I like the trip she's going to get. I think she can sit outside some horses that, to me, just aren't really that good and don't have a ton of finish. And if she's not, wrong for some reason, I think she gets the best trip and can win. So she's my top choice. And honestly, the rest of these I don't have much opinion on. I guess Sadie Lady would be my second choice, just off the pace angle, like you mentioned. Past that, I just don't like much in here.
So in that kind of situation, you might just still take a little shot, even with the question marks surrounding Espresso Shot, just figuring it's likely you're going to be getting good value if that guess is correct. And it's a tight ticket elsewhere. You'll take a little flyer, even if you're essentially singling or lone A-ing in a race where you don't have the strongest opinion in the world.
Well, yeah, and what I will probably do is since it's a short field, is if my 2 strong opinions on the day win and, 2 other like second strongest opinions win in the sequence, just make sure I have everything in this race covered on that one ticket just to get through it, because I don't have much opinion. So that's something I would do too, is just take my like A pluses. If they both win, make sure I get through that leg with everything.
Let's talk about race number 9, 512 Eastern, inner turf, 6 furlongs, 3 and up, optional claiming 80s, non-winners of 2. Lifetime, we go back to you for this one, Sean.
I like Battle Station the best. It seems like all over the country we're getting a lot of these turf sprints that just don't have a lot of quality speed in them for whatever reason anymore. So I like Battle Station to be tactical enough to be close, can still finish some. The other ones I'd use as sort of backups would be Guildsman and Corky, for the same reason. Corky can be a little close and has a little finish. So those would be my 3 in there.
You have 2. I was going to mention 2, and you mentioned them both. Battle Station, I thought, looks a real threat right back. 3rd race of the form cycle, versatile in terms of running style and just strong numbers overall. And then Quarky with the form that ties in so closely with the top pick, having traded decisions in the last 2. First off, the claim for Broberg, who haltered for himself. I thought that was a little bit interesting as well. 5 and 10 for me. 5, 1 and 10 for Sean, as we move it on to the nightcap, which by process of elimination, I know you have a strong opinion in. 544 on the turf, going a mile and a 16th, 3 and up, New York maiden claimers. Who's it going to be? How are we going to get paid?
I like Blind Sight, I like her a lot. She had a very hard trip last time and steadied pretty badly at the gate. Rushed up in the middle of the race 3 wide and was stuck out there the whole way. And I thought really acquitted herself nicely afterwards. She didn't, visually she didn't quote finish up, but on my late pace figures, she was still finishing, well enough to win this race, certainly. It really looks like she switched barns and surfaces last time and got much better. And I'm just going to single her and hope I'm alive to her.
I love that angle. Definitely looks a bit of a flow move up, and that's definitely a right note about the steady. I had thought of using as more of a backup, but I'm now tempted to upgrade to an A. I came up with the 4 Mondeuse, decent figure, bred to enjoy the stretch out, and I thought there was a world in which Mondeuse could get loose. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. I apologize. Number 11, Memories Eternal, another I wanted to mention who I thought made sense off the best races. Last time was off the layoff, against the flow again there, and I thought that was maybe a little bit too sharp. So 4, 11, and 3 for me. The 3 for Sean to close things out in this Belmont pick 6. Godspeed this weekend, my friend. Look forward to having you on the show again soon. We'll see if we can get something cooking for Saratoga with you and Paul. Maybe, who knows, maybe an in-person event at the Brentwood or something.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be really fun.
All right. Cheers, my man. We'll be talking soon.
See ya.
Just a reminder that the new In the Money podcast, whiskey is here. This 4-year-old rye finished in an apple brandy barrel. Basically, this spirit could be none more New York. You want to get a hold of some ahead of Saratoga. The only way to do so is to make a donation to our friends over at the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, trfinc.org/players. Go there, check it out. We'd love to have a donation from you so the TRF can continue their work. When you support our partners, you support us. trfinc.org/players. It's lean and mean. It's just 4 races. It's the Golden Hour Pick 4 on Saturday. We're starting off at Santa Anita. Before we get into the specifics of these races, though, I'm curious to, you work for the home team, so it's a loaded question, but this is a bet we always like to talk about how horse player friendly it is, how much we and various guests like to play it. Are you a devotee of this bet in your wagering aside from your analyzing?
So yes, I'm a late pick 4 player, so that's just my cup of tea. I do play this wager often because the payouts have been great. I haven't hit some of my biggest tickets that I've given away, unfortunately. I usually have to decide between the late pick 4 at Santa Anita or the Golden Hour pick 4. Sometimes I make the right decision and sometimes I don't. But overall, I think it's just been amazing to see what the payouts have been because there's generally like one sneaky horse that gets in there that lifts the payouts huge. And because of the high minimum wager of $1, you don't get to spread in every race like you might want to. I love the nice box looking pick 4s that's like 3 by 3 by 3 by 3, and I just can't afford to do it in the Golden Hour. So I do think it's fun. I like it. I think the players like it, and the returns have been great.
Let's talk about race number 8 at Santa Anita that kicks this things off with some stakes action. We've got the Thor's Echo going 6 furlongs, and Michelle will kick it off with you. Who were you interested in here?
So I want to use Colt Fiction in here. He's stepping up to stakes company, but his last 2 races have just been really good. And, even though he is a former maiden 40, Bill Spar is so good at getting these horses to do well at the right time. He's 6 years old right now, but he's going in the right direction. Why not give it a shot? So I like Colt Fiction. I think he'll set a nice trip behind what I think is going to be a magnitude of speed. I feel like, these sprinters are going to go quick, especially with Brickyard Ride back in. And I think that Whipping J is going to be up there. I just think that they're not going to let anybody relax in this particular instance. So I like Colt Fiction. I also love Fashionably Fast in here. He's got the back class to lean on. At one point, we didn't know if he was going to be a router or not. But he has successfully routed. As you see, he won the Tis Now. That was going a mile, and that was the last Calbred stake we had. So subsequently, he's run 3rd in back-to-back open company races, but he's running behind really good horses. Axeman, Shoot or Shoot. Even Restrained Vengeance has a ton of back class to lean on. So I like Fashionably Fast. I love the way he's been training. You can watch his work on XB, and he gets back in with his best friends, and those are Calbreds. Talking about Brickyard Ride, the question is, do I want to use him or do I not? So at this point, I'm going to probably say yes, I want to include him because his last race was just too bad to say it had to be true. And he's come back and worked sharply since. Interesting to note that he will get a new pilot in this race. Alexis Centeno has ridden Brickyard Ride for a long time, and he's not, I don't say he's tricky, right? You just send him to the front and let him run. But they're like last time out when Posterize was there and they just dueled each other into complete submission. I think that you might need a more experienced journeyman rider on to try and figure out, should I be going 19 and change right now? I'm not entirely sure. So I think that, having JJ get on might give this colt a new dimension. And I don't want to take his best weapon away from him, which is his speed, because that's what made him really good. He's able to put up these amazing fast fractions and no one can reel him in. So at this point, I am going to include him, but I I can't single him. And I would say if you draw a line through his last race, a lot of people would really consider using him as a single.
No doubt would stand out under those circumstances. I wasn't sure. I was hemming and hawing, and I landed on the other side of the fence. I was a little bit curious about the 2 Whooping Jay. I feel like I could tell you a story about this one. Second off the long layoff, successful return to the races on turf. If you just look at the number of the last dirt race, I know it was 6 back, but I mean, that was a competitive fig. We've got a winning sort with 9 exacta finishes in 11 races at a big price. I was willing to try, and I definitely wanted to follow you in on Fashionably Fast. And I was going to ask you about the workouts because they just jump off the form, and I wanted to know if they were impressive visually. And I know you love a turn back. This one should be fit off that, and I'm very interested. So I don't know, some combination of 2 and 3 for me. And you're sort of turning me around a little bit to maybe thinking if Brickyard Ride, the real Brickyard Ride shows up, everybody else might be running for second.
So I love to poo-poo all of your ideas. So I'm just going to poo-poo your Whooping Jay real quick.
Please.
So this horse runs really well fresh off the break. And then I would say he might not be as good next time out, this race would fit into that category, right? Also, if you go back to his last dirt race, which he did win, it was kind of a barely win, but he did win. The horses that he beat, like Mr. Patience and Quick Finish, the horse I can see on his running lines, they're not world beaters. Like they would be 100-1 in the Thorzecco. So I just don't know if his form is going to be as good looking at the horses that he's coming up against, with the exception of Galilean, but that was also routing at Del Mar a year ago, as some of the other horses in here that have been facing better horses as of late, right? And as back to Fashionably Fast, I do like his workouts. They are pretty much as impressive as they look on paper because he looks like he's always doing it super easy. I mean, he could be going 102 and you look down, you're like, oh, 59, holy cannoli. This guy he's just cool. He's just a cool horse. And you're right, I love the turn back. So go Fashionably Fast.
There you go. All right, we will move up north for our next stakes, the Albany Stakes. This is going to be perfect. I told you I wouldn't keep you too long. I can go very quickly for this one. I felt like number 3, Brando the Bartender, just comes out an hour the best on finals and late pace. I was a little worried about it being too sharp, but you go back to earlier in the career. And
what about the yard race at Los Al?
Exactly. Well, are you gonna poo-poo this one, or are you with Brando the Bartender?
I love Brando the Bartender. We've had some of his partners on the owner's box, and he's just a cool story. He is a feel-good horse to follow along. I think it's interesting that they also sent him up to the Albany instead of running him back on the main track in the Thorzecco, right? That's a really interesting move because this is not against, is it Calabreds? No, yeah, it's not against Calabreds. So I like this particular situation for him. So he is almost a single for me. If I have the money, I might chuck in Tom Surprise, which is crazy because on a class level, he is nowhere near as good as Brando. But since being cleaned by Jonathan Wong, all of a sudden he has really woken up in the afternoons, and possibly this could be a good spot for him. We know from a pedigree standpoint, he really should run well on the turf course. And while this is an experiment for him, I mean, Wong doesn't make too many crazy wrong moves. So he's my hedge horse. If I have the money, I'm going to chuck him in if he's a good price. But if not, I'm highly considering singling Brando.
Back down to your neck of the woods for this 9th race at Santa Anita. Starter allowance going a mile on the dirt. We'll send it back to you, Michelle, for your thought in this one.
Okay, so I'm going to use Dr. Troutman for Papa Bodromo, who's breaking from the rail and has speed. Even though he's taking the blinkers off, he's cutting back in distance. So I like him a lot. He's been pretty competitive, and he's been pretty consistent overall. So he's not an absolute win machine, but he hits the board a lot. And I think he's just been seeking for a level for a long time, because you can see prior to those like 5 good efforts, he kind of ran him over his head a lot of times. So, this is a horse that was just needing to find friends. And I think this is still within his friends group. I'm going to include our horse in here, Gray Magician. He's going to put blinkers on. I know Ryan wants him on the lead, which he might get it, he might not. But I guess if he's this close and sitting off of Dr. Troutman, then that's something to be said as well. we've been trying to get him to relax just a little bit in the morning so he has something to finish with, and he's been pretty amenable to that. So I think that I'm going to go ahead and include him. Even though I don't love him, I'm going to use him. And I'm going to also use It's That Time for Sergio Morfin, who was picked up as a winner last time out, going the mile for a 20 non-3. So this is going to be a significant step up in class for him, but I like the way he did it. And I don't think that he needs the lead to be on there. My question mark horse is House Limit with Bob Hess. Blinkers coming off. We had actually looked at this horse when he was over running in Keeneland, and he came here and they ran him in a starter. He finished behind Dr. Troutman in Synthesis, but it was off of a break. I think he can move forward from that. And the fact that Bob Hess sent him a mile and a 16th first time means he gets the cut back here, which I think is key. I'm guessing by your face that you went with like 4 completely different horses, but that's the type of race this is, right?
Yeah. No, I was also like,
you're like California Street,
I'm just Colossi. It was also like, oh, Michelle's got such good cases. Now I'm going to tell you why I like the favorites. I just felt like the closing sectionals on Contagion make me think that this could be the right setup, especially with that info. If Great Magician, who I had a note to just defer to you on, if Great Magician's going to be more forward, I really think it could set up for an off the pace type, and Contagion might be the one to benefit. But then, if I'm using Contagion, I felt like I had to use Colossi as well, just off the form angle. Though I could leave Colossi out simply because when I look at the race and I look at the figures, the improvement looks real, but it's a weird improvement for a 6-year-old. So now you can tell me why I'm wrong about those two.
No, I mean, my only thing with those two is looking at, you're looking at this as like the starter optional 32, right? So if you take it for each piece as it is, okay, so Colossi's coming out of a starter allowance for 12.5, and he was able to win, which is great for him. But overall, that field is nothing like this field. And he's been running in the lower level claiming races, and he's mildly successful. Okay. So same thing with Contagion. He had the win at the allowance, which is a good spot, but the horses he beat that day, it was kind of a weaker field. I mean, he was the favorite. He was expected to win. And prior to that, he was getting beat for 10,000. So if you just say, oh, how does a 10,000 compare to an open 32? There's a big leap. So right. I was trying to look at horses that were taking the class drops rather than these pair of horses that were stepping up more.
This is the kind of institutional knowledge and specifically knowledge of the condition book you get when we have Michelle on the airwaves. You make a great point. It's like, I don't mind making those. If these horses were going to be, maybe 4 and 5 to 1, I wouldn't care so much about that. But as the favorite, as the morning line favorites anyway, it's a bit of a concern. I think it's a spread race for me. I'm just going to try to survive and advance. And
it makes the Brando the bartender single look even better.
I'm with you on good old Brando. Let's move on to our last race, Golden Gates 10th. We'll close out both the golden hour bets, the double, which begins in that race we were just talking about, as well as the pick 4. We've got a 3 and up filly and mare allowance race, 6 on the synthetic. Michelle, how are we going to get paid?
Okay, I like Munchie's Pretty for Jonathan Wong. Last couple have been well beaten, but we're going to turn back in distance here, so I like that aspect. I'm not in love with the horse by any means, but I think that she can still be forwardly placed, even though she's been on the front going longer. She was also on the front when she was sprinting. And I'm going to go against like everything that I do. And I'm going to use Square Dreamer for Cliff de Lima. This is a half to La Traviata, who is a wicked fast horse. And coming off the break here, first time versus winners, which is the angle that I really despise. But we know that 6 furlongs is going to get it done for her. And I think there's going to be speed for her to run at. I just really think that she's super intriguing. So those are the two that I'm going to go to.
A pair of 20 to 1 shots. I absolutely love it. Definitely ones folks are going to want to consider throwing into your tickets. I am once again lower end of the odds spectrum here. I thought that
Did JK do your ticket?
I have reasons.
Wait. Did you know JK and I did Fox last week on Memorial Day, and we had to do like a 4-minute pick 4 segment where we like breezed through a pick 4, right?
Yeah.
So in the morning, the producer was like, hey, give me your tickets, blah, blah, blah. And JK was like, oh, I don't have mine yet. I'm like, I can do JK's ticket for her. Literally only got 1 horse wrong. I'm like, who's the most obvious horses on here?
You're very cruel. He's picked a number of long shots on this show.
All really? Right, I would like to see proof.
Oh
Please.
my God! No, ask send that. Well, JK might take it the wrong way, but I was going to say send out on Twitter, and folks will come back at you with that. It's the first one that popped to my mind was a long time ago, so don't hold that against me. But Henley's Joy was one that was a very very popular top pick.
A long time ago.
That was a long.
That's like
anyway.
the first time I ever went to the track. I picked a 40-1 shot.
You get hooked for life when you do that. Listen, you're the one. You have clearly. I'm clearly the tonic that heals all ills, because you seem like you're feeling much better 15 minutes into our chat here. Let me tell you about my horses. Fairy Tale Bliss, the one. I just thought it was a case of setup. I agree with you about the pace. I like that return to the races. That was off 222 days. Now back in 3 weeks, and I think should sit. Mid pack or back of the pack, but I think the filly's got some finish. Do you like her at all?
So she has a check mark. I don't know if you can see it in the blue.
Wait,
my problem is over here in this column with the 0, 0, 0, 0.
That's when they fit on numbers, I don't care about that stuff.
Okay.
Not nearly as much. And when they're racing, it's not a new low level, I guess, because she's raced at a similar level before, but not on synth. So I guess I'm going all the way back to anyway.
Honestly, I don't blame you for her. She was one of my top picks, and I just thought she doesn't win a lot of races. So I was going to try and just go with pricey horses instead. Cause at least if you have a pricey horse, they don't win. You're like, oh, well, I gave it a shot, right?
I hate giving out favorites that lose. It's one of the things that makes me the craziest on TV. But, I at the same time, I just tend to tell you who I think is going to win. And I just feel like the trip is going to be fantastic for Fairy Tale Bliss with all the speed signed on. And then the same angle we mentioned before about the close form tie-in with the 5 Warm Summer, just a head back of Fairy Tale Bliss, and one who I felt like in the third race of the form cycle had a chance to improve. Let's hear your knock on that one.
I got no knock on it. Okay. No knock on it at all. Also one that has a check mark. I was just trying to be fancy.
I love it, Michelle. Well,
next time, I didn't disagree with you on this horse.
That's high praise coming from you.
That's right. I can't knock that horse at all.
Well, I appreciate you playing her and coming on the show and talking about the golden hour pick 4 with us. We'll have you on soon for a much longer conversation when you're feeling better.
Sounds great. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you, my friend. Michelle Yu. Today's show brought to you in part by our friends at LTN Global. LTN Global offers innovative TV production services that help racetracks raise their profile, bring all the TV tricks they've learned from other sports to horse racing. We're going to continue with our Innovators in Racing series in the coming weeks. Should have a written piece based on my Ken Kirkner interview. And then we're going to have Rich Rosa from LTN Global on the show the week after that to talk about his past in racing and some of the cool stuff going on there at LTN Global. Check out their website. It is ltnglobal.com. You can learn more over there, and you'll certainly learn more in a couple of weeks when we have Rich on the show. That website, once again, ltnglobal.com. We have Drew Coatney in the house and producer Craig, Johnny on the spot, making the graphic change. Drew there he goes. I thought he was going to pull a JK and have his microphone muted. He's giving me host anxiety, just popping up the mute consistently. But hey, this is a long, long overdue visit because it's so great to have Woodbine Racing back in the mix. We're going to talk about their late pick 4. The doubles are often the way to go at Woodbine. We always mention in terms of the takeout, but this is just fantastic to have Woodbine back. Should be very competitive racing. Looking at some big full fields, and Drew is here to talk about this pick 4. Do you know what your own content plans are, Drew? I know your write-ups for Woodbine last year were very popular. Do you think you'll be doing some Woodbine write-ups again at some point during the season?
I hope so. Don't you? We'll see what ends up happening here. I think this weekend we'll have the late pick 4 written up and provided some insights, and hopefully we can catch some winners on there.
I love the sound of it. We're here to talk about this sequence, which begins with race number 8 on the Saturday card, 451, we've got a very nice purse for this 3-year-old and up maiden special weight filly and mare event going a mile on the turf. We'll let you kick things off, Drew.
Yeah, I am against the favorite here. I'm putting number 3, Lemon Crinkle, on top. I'm interested to know the backstory behind why Graham Motion switched this one earlier this week, or maybe it was this weekend. No, on Monday, to this trainer I've never heard of. But I see the workout tab looks really strong, especially back in April and early May. You've got some great works, and I was just really impressed by that race at Belmont, being able to pull herself into the race and show a little bit of quicken, and then kind of wrapped up at around the 16th pole, probably conserving some energy, and likely the reason for the long layoff here maybe had a little bit of an ouchie. So at a price, I'm going to go with the number 3, Lemon Crinkle, because I just didn't see a lot of short prices that have me very convinced.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that as far as the motion things goes, I mean, that race was so long ago. I don't think he's been in the mix for a long time. I didn't go back and see if it was the same ownership group and a private sale or what. But I mean, hey, I'm not Michelle Yu. I'm not going to tell you not to back a price horse here, Drew, even though she's not one that I came up with. I also, even though I feel like the favorite is Super Live and I'm going to use, and we'll get to her, I put Astrological number 4 on top. I thought it was just interesting with the dams, 3 foals to make it to the races, all having won, and those works 2 and 3 back leapt off the page. Malibu Moon has strong stats with firsters, and Cassie can obviously have them ready. But I mean, Speightstown Show for me kind of, I got to use, just because we've got a horse. This just doesn't happen very often. We have a horse who has 3 races. They're all above the par for the level. I just feel like she's due to break through. So it's 4 and 5 for me. Did you have any others you wanted to mention, or were you just going to take a cheeky single with the 3 and hope to get this thing off with a bang?
Yeah, I was debating on these 2 Cassie horses if you use the first-time starters, because you get Kimura and Emma Jane Wilson on your number 4, Astrological, and couldn't be in any better hands. So might use those as Bs, the 2 and the 4. The number 6 is another A for me, Bekia, maybe is how we pronounce that here. Just a poorly timed ride last out, or 2 back, and then last out, trying to run down some really classy horses, gets back into the right level. So at 15-1 with Stein on board again, who was the debut jockey, we could see some value here. So I'm going to go with the 6 as a name, my top choice being number 3, and 2 backups as the 2 and the 4.
You sound tepid enough on the 2 and the 4 that I'm going to call them C's. Are you okay with that?
I'm pretty skinny, so let's just do B's on that.
Okay, that works for me. That's why I asked. Race number 9 at 522 is a allowance race going 7.5 on the inner turf for 3 and up fillies and mares once again. I was going to keep it simple. I thought the favorite looked very live. Number 5, Another Time. I thought had a pace edge against this field, just looking at the sectionals. Felt like the last race was probably just too far, and looks to me like she's been working forwardly for her return to the races. Drew, how did you see it?
Yeah, I'm with you. Another Time last year, I've been noted to say that one was going to be a graded stakes horse last year, and we got darn close to seeing that come to fruition. But I'm on the number 7 of Fleet Catherine. I think this one will be able to sit off of it just a little bit, still have enough pace edge to be up there. Had faced the likes of Gun Society, Curlin's Voyage, Marveilleux in the past 2 runnings, and the first 2 races get me excited. Those 2 7-furlong events back in July showed a great progression, and Stein is still staying aboard. I think this horse is still yet to break through, and at 6-1, I'm going to use that one as an A. So my numbers here are the 7 and the 5 as A's, because I just can't leave Another Time off.
I know you're a big fan. Fleet Catherine also has that eye-catching work last out, that nice drill going a minute flat in 5. You can go over to the Woodbine website and check out what Ernie Perry has to say in their Clocker report. He does such a good job flagging up horses, often at prices, who've impressed him in the morning. And it's all the more important when we're dealing with so many horses at Woodbine this meet who are coming off of layoffs. Hopefully we're going to have a lot more Woodbine educational content to come as the season moves on here. But for now, we're going to stick to the handicapping and move on to race number 10, 5:54 Eastern for this one. 7 on the synthetic, 3 and up filly and mare maiden types. What did you come up with in race number 10?
Yeah, I'm always looking for horses that are traveling wide, that whole drop back, travel wide, and on the synth especially in the shorter distances on the synth at Woodbine does not work out well. The ground loss, the loss of momentum, and number 11, Moonlight Silence, fits that bill perfectly. Was traveling wide and against the pace flow, so there may be some a good price at 12-1 there on the number 11, Moonlight Silence coming back. Maybe we'll see a little bit of a resurgence. I do have two others. I'm not being original and saying number 2, Ostracized, looks like the best. On paper, the 0-9 gets me a little hesitant, but hey, at least we're trying something new, and Cassie's 21% on the synth. The other B for me is, from a consideration standpoint, number 5, Orbaline. On debut, had to face some really tough horses here, and drops back down into a better class level. And the trainer has a great ROI at $2.12, I think it is, coming off these long layoffs. So there might be something still left with this Daughter of Orb.
So I wrote it down with you as the A as the 11 and the 2 and the 5 as Bs. Did I get that about right?
2 and 11 is A's, and the 5 would be a B.
Top pick being?
Number 11.
All right, 11, 2, and the 5 as a B. I actually had a nice note. I had used the 11 as a backup in here, but you're making me think about upgrading the 11 Moonlight Silence. I'm going to leave as a backup for now. I thought that the 3 Spider Bell could be a little bit interesting as a price. Just fits pretty well off the race 2 back, and I thought might be able to get a good trip where I thought they might go too fast, and the 7 could bring that little bit of a late run that we've seen in that race 2 back into play. So I like the 3 best. And I'll also mention a favorite that you didn't mention, the 12 Careless Heiress, who has run competitively at the level and just looked like probably ready for the return to the races, maybe fitter than some of the ones coming off of longer layoffs. So I was going to call it 3 and 12 as A's, and 3 and 12 as A's, and the 11 as a B in this 10th race at Woodbine. And that brings us along to our nightcap. We've got maiden claiming types with 15,000 in the pot. Once again, fillies and mares 3 and up, 6.5 on the synth. Drew, how are we going to get paid?
Cold single, number 8, Naitaka. I don't know how to say that. How would you?
You got to try harder than that. You got to go with confidence. Naitaka.
There you go. Yeah, confidence is where it was at. So, anyways, I really like this horse. The debut, as Benny South Street occasionally says, trying to get away with something here, trying to get away with robbery, essentially. Went out, dueled 3 wide on the lead, and just the jockey didn't even ask. It was like a paid workout. They said, hey, look, we're just going to sit back here. We're not going to rush things. Then comes back in August and had a bit of trouble, was very much against the pace flow, and still was keeping on terms with the rest of the bunch. And I try and look for that, even though if your horse does finish 11th, where was the flow of the race at that point? What was happening in the race? And I think this one was still keeping up with the others that had a very clean trip. It was a weird race. I believe the winner was at like 45-1 or something along those lines, in second place at 20-1. So when you see those type of anomaly type of races, typically you can put a question mark next to it and say, is there room for improvement based on how things shook out in that race? And I think with Emma Jane Wilson aboard today, there's some good workouts in there and the blinkers go on. The number 8, Naitaka, is really interesting for me at a heck of a price, and I'm going to cold single right there.
I like the boldness there, and Naitaka was on my radar as well. I had put as my B, my second horse, to number 3, Marais, who I was very interested in off of the established form from last fall. And I thought the other interesting angle was first time on the synth, and at least according to the Timeform US breeding ratings, might be best on the synth. So, and this is one of those trainer changes. Now that I see the morning lines, maybe I was wrong on this. I was thinking going from the obviously incredibly well-known Cassie barn to the current barn, which is, unheralded. I don't know much about this trainer at all, Petersky. I just thought you might get a little bit of juice in the price, but at 3-1 in the morning line suggests that maybe I'm being over optimistic about that with Marais. It makes me want to take one look. There's sort of fun tool in this product I've been playing with called Equine Edge or Equine Edge, and they actually do they take a guess at a morning line. And actually, interestingly, on there, they have their own algorithm generated morning line trying to predict what the crowd's going to bet. And it does have Moraes 5-1 on there. A lot more appealing to me at 5-1 than at the 3-1 of the morning line. I'm going to include in my various reckonings in here, and I'll give you a little bit of backup with number 8, Naitaka, in this spot. Any closing thoughts from you, Drew, before we wrap up this segment of the show?
Yeah, I have to say I am excited for Woodbine to be back in action. I think all of those folks over at Woodbine deserve a congratulations for making it through. Those folks have kept their head up. They always took the high road in terms of what we saw on Twitter through Jim Lawson and the rest of them. So congrats. I hope it's a perfect day. It's looking like it's supposed to shape up to be. And I can't wait to get racing and see these massive 14-horse fields turn for home over at Woodbine.
All right. Good stuff, Drew. Thank you very much for your time. And we will be catching up with you again very soon and hopefully see something from you over at InTheMoneyPodcast.com this weekend.
Absolutely. Good hat, by the way. I love the snake.
It's a Carlos Santana designed hat today, going in a bit of a different direction. And I was doing some spring cleaning and found it. And I was like, yeah, we need that snake.
Yeah, I love it. It's awesome.
Cheers, bud. Today's show brought to you in part by our friends at the New York Racing Association. Want to remind folks that they have weekly contests on Saturdays, $300 buy-in with cash prizes. Registration closes early, Fridays at 5. Go to the NYRA website to check that out. You can see we have up there on screen now the schedule for America's Day at the Races. Go check JK out over there. Looks like a lot of FS2 this weekend during the racing. And I want to let folks know that the Saratoga season tickets are now on sale. The season passes are, that is. The individual tickets are on sale later this month. Go to the NYRA.com website and check all that out. We will be back later with a nice little segment on the NYRA Pick 6 this week. For more information, go to NYRA.com. Next up on the show, very happy to welcome for the first time a guest who I'm excited to chat with about her role at the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, but so much more than that. And she's also here to talk about the late pick 5 on Saturday from Lone Star Park. A woman of many talents is this Jessica Paquette. Jessica, how are things?
Oh, everything's great. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the TRF, a cause that's near and dear to our hearts over here. Founding partner on this podcast network. How long have you been involved with them, and what's your role over there?
So I've been involved with the TRF for only a few months. I joined in March as their Director of Communications and Annual Fund. For me, Thoroughbred Aftercare is kind of the driving force behind everything I do in the industry. So I'm really grateful to kind of direct my career in that direction at this point.
Love it. And obviously you're working with a good crew of people and doing incredible work for the humans as well as the equines over there. Off to a good start for you?
Oh, it's perfect. It's great. I feel like it's nice to feel like you're making a difference in the industry, which is something that kind of the longer I'm in the industry, I don't just want to collect a paycheck. I'd like to be able to give back in as many meaningful ways as I can.
Well, that's extremely well put. I want to talk to you, of course, about your experience at Sam Houston last weekend behind the mic. I got to listen to some of your calls. I thought you were sounding great. How was that experience for you? Is it something you're looking forward to doing more in the future?
It was one of the most fun things I've done in racing. And I've gotten to do some pretty cool things in racing over the years. And it was a top 3 weekend. The first couple were a little dicey. I'd only called one race prior ever in my life. So I was really a first-time starter. But they got better as the weekend went on. And all I wanted to do was just be serviceable. I just didn't want people to hear it and go, oh God, and like turn the volume off.
I don't think there was any of that. You had some pretty challenging ones. What was the shortest race you called?
250 yards is way too short. My brain does not move that fast. No one's brain moves that fast. It was that the 250s were actually really tough. I mean, they're off and you lose, and that's it.
You don't get to say the whole field in a race that short, do you?
Oh no, if I could call 2, I was really good about myself.
How did you get involved in racing in the first place? Where does your passion for the game come from?
I was a weird horse crazy kid that couldn't afford a show horse, so I found my way to the racetrack.
You've given that answer before, I can tell.
Yeah, it's the true answer. I grew up in with a very non-horsey family. I fell madly in love with racing and horses, and it was an organization called Kids to the Cup, actually, that kind of helped me get my foot in the door, because I'm not related to anybody. I'm no one's daughter. I'm no one's wife in the industry. So I kind of had to make my own way, and Kids to the Cup was really a huge part of that.
That's very cool. I don't know much about that. That sounds super interesting.
So it was in the late 90s, early 2000s. Trudy McCaffrey started it with the help of John DeSantis, who works for ExpressBet.
Sure. Loved Johnny D. Yeah.
Johnny D is the best.
Yeah.
So they brought a whole bunch of kids who met on AOL horse racing message boards, because this is when the internet was a safe place. This is before the internet was we knew it was full of creeps. We were just a bunch of kids talking to each other. And someone sent us a message being do you want to come to the Breeders' Cup? And my parents were yeah, go to the Breeders' Cup. You're 15, have fun. And they brought us to all the greatest races, and we met all the most wonderful people, and they got to, they showed us race it the very best horse racing could be for us. And so many of us still work in the industry.
How times have changed. I was just, as soon as you said that, I couldn't help but flash if my 8-year-old daughter asked me that same question in 7 years from now.
Sure, can you imagine her being so someone sent me a message with a plane ticket. What do you think about that?
I'd say, you're going to the Breeders' Cup with me. You're not talking to these
they did bring their parents as well, but even still, it was a safer time in 1999.
No doubt about it. Pretty amazing. The AOL horse. Oh my God, I love it. It's amazing how far we've come, but not necessarily evolved. I guess you could argue.
No, we just fight on Twitter now. It's all the same.
Tell me about your potential future in calling races. Was this a one-off for you, or something you're interested in being serious about?
I'm open to anything the racing gods have in store for me. And I'll be at Colonial Downs this summer as their paddock host and analyst. And maybe I'll kick Jason Beam out of the booth for a race or two. Who knows?
Jason will be good like that. I think he'll have a podcast interview to record. There'll be some reason. Yeah, we've been in touch with them. We're hoping to do some stuff with Colonial this year. I've really enjoyed it in its previous incarnation, and we'll be watching you guys with interest. All the more so with the fantastic team. It seems like a very savvy crew that's been put together there in terms of people who are they're going to get so much more from you than just being a paddock host, the same way they're going to get so much more from Jason being in the booth. I think it'll be interesting, and I think it'll show up in the numbers.
I'm really hoping that I'm able to bring a lot to the table, but selfishly, I'm just super excited to get to work with Jill Byrne. She's someone who I've had a ton of admiration for my entire career, and women like her paved the way for women like me, and there's so much I can learn from her while I'm there. So I'm really excited, and to get to work with Jason, who's one of my best friends. So it's just going to be like adult summer camp to me.
I absolutely love it. That's very cool. We'll be watching that with great interest. You're here today, though, to talk about racing over at Lone Star Park. They've got this late pick 5 that we've been talking about every week on the show. We've got our extra Lone Star content as well in the form of shows hosted by our very own Spencer Lugenbuehl and somebody who has also stood at the microphone at Sam Houston in Nick Tamaro. But
he set the bar very high for me.
He's not bad. He's another multifaceted individual. But I'm very curious to get your thoughts on these Lone Star races today. If only I could find the right tab where I have them open. It all starts off in race number 5 at 5:27 Eastern on Saturday night. We've got 3 and up filly and mare allowance types going a mile on the turf. Jessica, who did you like in here?
Well, it's tough to get past number 4, Still Charging Maria. This horse was bred to be an absolute world beater and really has shown some serious ability on the turf. That tactical speed, I think, translates really well onto the grass. But I don't think she's unbeatable. There's a reason she's at Lone Star and isn't with Steve's top string, wherever that may be. I think I'm going for a huge long shot with number 2, Whoppy. I thought Karen Jacks was super live at Sam Houston throughout the meet. And that race was really bad last time out, like very bad. But it came off the turf. I'm willing to give this horse a pass. I think this horse is a little better than his recent form may indicate. And I like the record on the local turf. So let's take a swing. I at least fill out an exotic with a big price.
Yeah, I like it. 15-1 on the morning line. Hasn't proven to be a winning type thus far, but as I was talking about earlier in the show, a lot of those races being against better, maybe you get a little wake up and you're certainly going to be getting a big price. I was wildly uncreative. I just felt like Still Charging Maria was going to prove to be the best speed and tough to down, but I'm liking this idea of trying to mix in some prices maybe underneath in the verticals. I will probably just go ahead and be wildly uncreative in the pick 5, knowing that if I go wrong, I'll just come back in the pick 4, which brings us to race number 6. We've got 3 and up maidens going 6.5 on the dirt. And the horse that caught my eye in this spot was number 4, Sharp Rocket, who I thought was interesting on the cutback. I feel like the last race simply looked too far and fits off the best races. Jessica, who do you like in here?
Oh, I feel like I'm being wildly uncreative here, and that's with number 2, Irish Unity. You just have to think this horse is the one to beat. Steve Asmussen, Stuart Elliott, who, for the record, got his start in New England because all roads run through Suffolk Downs. Holy pedigree, though, on this horse. I'm a nerd in general, but a pedigree nerd in particular. The dam was a graded stakes winner, and this horse is a half to New Year's Day in Mohaman, along with a couple of other 6-figure earners. So this one just looks really well meant here.
No doubt about it. When we give the opportunity to offer people throwing out backup runners, if you've got any, but is this all Irish Unity or bust for you?
If I'm playing this multi-race wager, I'm singling this one.
Gotcha.
I'm really comfortable with that single.
The pedigree angles are there, and you're certainly in the right hands as well. Let's talk about race number 7. We've got the Texas Breds this time around. 3 and up fillies and mares, maiden claimers, 7,500, going 5.5 on the dirt. And Jessica, we'll keep it with you.
I'm eating some chalk here. That's number 6, Constitution Girl. Short price, but checks just every box. I have a hard time taking maidens with a ton of starts, especially these lower level maidens. You really only get so many chances with me. And then once I'm done, I'm very done. And this one did everything right in her debut. Kind of checks every box. I think second time start, she's the one to beat here. And again, kind of a chalky, I think, early start to this sequence, but it gets a little bit deeper the last 2 races.
Yeah, I can't help in terms of creativity. Constitution Girl just looks too tough off that too good to lose debut, and I wasn't going to be a hero. I was going to single and move on in race number 7. And with that, we'll move on to race number 8, 3 and up filly and mare allowance types going 5 furlongs on the turf. My top pick was going to be number 1, Pretty Britches in here, who I thought looked like potentially the best speed, and I thought was interesting. There was a little bit of back and forth. And as a pedigree person, I'd love to get your take on this. But according to the Timeform US breeding ratings, looked like she might be best on grass. And I meant a product I mentioned before, Equine Edge, has a little genetic strength rating looking at pedigrees, and Pretty Britches didn't come out so well on that. But I just thought between the speed and having any reason to believe turf might be her friend, I was going to use the number 1. And then I was also going to use number 3, Quick, the more obvious favorite. Makes a ton of sense on back numbers, and I thought could get a good stalk and pounce type trip. What do you think is going to happen in this 8th race at Lone Star?
I mean, I do love the idea of speed shaking loose on the turf. I think that they can get really brave on the front end. Quick is just too consistent. This is a horse I did get to watch quite a bit this past winter at Sam Houston. I'm going in a little bit of a different direction. Number 2, Elstown, one of the horses for Broberg, coming back off of a layoff last time, ran well. I think second off the bench, this horse improves. And I really like the jockey change. Raylu Gutierrez picks up the mount. He is riding very well. I mean, he's riding well wherever he is. He's also traveling everywhere. I mean, you just see him going back and forth. No one hustles harder, but I think that's a lot to like there. I'm also vaguely intrigued by Candy Ginger. Handful of starts. Interesting first try on the turf. I love the female family, Spadestown, trying the grass. I think this horse, he could probably make a case that speed will translate.
I'm going to list you with the 2 as your top pick and as the 3 and 4 as potential backups there. Are you happy enough with that?
Good. Yeah, good. Works for me.
Let's do it. Let's move on to race number 9, our nightcap Texas Breds once again. 3 and up allowance types, 5.5 on the dirt. And Jessica, we ask you the question we ask all the guests. How are we going to get paid?
I'm going to take a real swing here. Number 1, Cowboy Ridge. I don't know if I like this horse on top, but this is another one of those bombs I'm going to use in exotics. 28 starts to break his maiden, so really it took him a while. Late bloomer. Not all of us hit our stride early in life. It's okay. But this barn really can jump up and surprise. It was one I noticed at Sam Houston. I think he can get a piece of it. I also like number 4, Mac Be Quick. Freshen since that maiden win at Sam Houston. Gelded since then, so a little brain surgery never hurts anybody. Sharp win from off the pace, and I just have to think Gradester and Irish Expectations hook up. So I'm setting this race up that there's going to be a pace collapse, and maybe Mac Be Quick capitalizes on that.
Excellent ideas on a couple of long prices with Cowboy Ridge at 15.
Series. We'll see how they shake out.
But hey, as I always say, I want to know what we think of the shot before it hits its apex, and I think those are it's an interesting place to take shots with a 15-1 and a 10-1 as you're doing in the nightcap with the 1 and the 4. I thought Irish Expectations back quick, second off the claim on the cutback. I thought maybe would settle and try to finish, and I liked that trip in here. Now, I obviously could be wildly incorrect about that, but I felt like Irish Expectations could trip out really well on the turn back. That's where I was going to go, but I'm certainly going to try to build some backup lines with your long shots in here. And throughout this sequence, that was a real pleasure blasting through that pick 5 at Lone Star with you. And I hope we have you back on soon to talk about whatever we want to talk about. Massachusetts racing history. It sounds like we can do that. We can do more TRF. Some pedigree deep dives. Who knows? You got a lot to offer, and it's been fantastic having you on.
Likewise, thank you for having me.
Quick reminder that if you are a fan of the content we produce over here, you should be subscribing to our free newsletter. You can find that one pretty easy in themoneypodcast.com/email. And if you want even more from us, I encourage you to sign up for our Plus service. You'll get little digests of all the picks given on the shows. And more than that, you'll get added content, Matt Vagvolgi with actionable stats information every weekend, and more podcasts. We've been averaging about 1 a weekend. Who knows? I'm not sure what this weekend's will be. Maybe we'll do something on the Golden Gate Force Out on Sunday. And I think we're going to do a little Plus preview with some extra Monmouth content on Saturday, but you don't have to sign up for that. Anyway, check it out. inthemoneypodcast.com/plus. We appreciate your help so much. It allows us to keep doing all the stuff that we're doing and to do more of it as well. To learn more, go to inthemoneypodcast.com/plus. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. I want to thank Sean Boarman, Michelle Yu, Drew Coatney, and Jessica Paquette. I want to thank our founding partners at the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation and also 10 Strike Racing. Most of all, though, I want to thank all of you, the listeners, for making these shows so much fun to do. Reach out at Looms Boldly on Twitter or via the contact page in themoneypodcast.com. This show's been a production of In the Money Media. I got to give props to producer Craig, DJ Unstable himself for pushing all the right buttons. Our business manager is Drew Coatney. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kinchin. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatel. May you win all your photos.